Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.
That's me, Tiberius.
And welcome to the Tiberius Show today. And I'm your host, Tiberius Boy. And as always, we're looking at various jobs and how they affect the world around us. Today's case is going to be very interesting. We're going to talk to a SpaceTeam Captain. Do you have any idea what a SpaceTeam Captain does? Well, I think I do. But, hey, let's talk to this guy and find out. Let me introduce our next guest. The one, the only, the amazing Henry Smith.
Hi. Nice to be here.
Thank you for being on the show. Okay, so you are listed as a SpaceTeam Captain. Can you explain to my listeners exactly what do you do?
Well, being a Space Team Captain involves making my own indie games. At least for the last 10 years, I was working on a game, Space Team, that sort of took me on a lot of wild adventures, and so I was building this game by myself with a bit of help with some friends, and so yeah, it's a very different experience than working for a large company, which I have done in the past, and I'm doing again. But yeah, I've been indie for a long time.
Okay, so you wrote the game that I play with my dad and my friends, but how'd you come up with this amazing idea?
Well, when I first quit my job at BioWare, which was one of these big game companies, in order to make my own games, I made myself work on something really small to start with because I had these ambitious ideas that I would take me like 10 years to build. So I made myself build a game that I could finish in like a month or so.
Okay.
It took a bit longer than that, but so I had to keep it really small. I had to keep the idea simple, and yeah, I struggled at first to come up with a simple game that would be fun. But the seed of the idea actually came to me in a dream. Sounds a bit cheesy, but but that was the spark of the game, and then it developed from there.
Okay, so now you used to work for BioWare, but you decided to leave and build an indie game. Can you explain why and what are indie games?
Well, yeah, I loved working for BioWare. But it's very different than working for yourself. Like I was a programmer working on user interface, a very specific role. So I wasn't involved in the design. They weren't my ideas, and I always had my own ideas for games that I wanted to make personally. I'd made big games before as a kid, and so I wanted to take some time off to have complete creative control to build the games I wanted to make, and yeah, so that's one of the things you can do as an indie developer if you're not attached to a publisher or a larger company. You have complete creative control. You can do what you want, and you're entirely responsible for your own success, and you have to do a bit of everything.
Okay. Now, if you're working for yourself, how do you set the schedule and make sure that you go to work every day?
I guess, I mean, if you want to do something like this, you have to already have a good work ethic, and because I quit because I wanted to work on my own games, I was super excited about it, and so it wasn't hard to get up in the morning and go straight to work because this is what I wanted to do, and and this creative outlet had been missing from working at a big company, and so I was just really excited to work, and because I have to do a bit of everything, there's always something else to be done, like the design, the music, the art, the programming, fixing bugs, user interface, PR.
Okay. Now, how many indie games have you started?
Have I started? Well, that's a good question. The better question is how many have I finished? But started. I mean, I started like dozens of games when I was just like a kid in like high school, and I finished one of those games, and then as a new indie after BioWare, I made SpaceTeam, and then I started two other games which didn't get finished for various reasons. I'm still hoping to go back to them, but and Space Team itself like spawned like 7 or 8 other side projects that are loosely related. So it's hard to put an exact number on it.
Ah. So, how long does it take to build a full fun indie game?
Well, fun is a matter of interpretation. So I don't know if I mean, I hope I've built a fun game, but yeah, Space Team. I wanted to build it in 1 month. It ended up taking me 3 months because I was enjoying myself and I wanted to polish it a bit more. So yeah, that game originally took 3 months, but then yeah, I've been supporting it in various ways for like the last 10 years, not full time, but
Okay.
other games I've spent like 3 years on, um, and yeah, bigger games like the AAA blockbuster
Huh.
games with hundreds of people take 6 years to make. That sometimes.
Yeah. Now, do you like building games from PC, console, or phones the best?
Uh, when I'm making my own games, I prefer to build them on phones, just because it forces you to work at a much smaller scale. So I can do something very simple. I also like the interactions, just touching things and manipulating things with my hands, rather than
Okay.
being a bit further removed, pressing a button and then seeing something happen on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the tactility of a phone.
Ah, okay. Now, what's the best part about making your own indie games?
Well, the best part for me is that I can do a bit of everything, and I can decide, like, make all the stupid decisions that I want to do. I can put like silly things in the game if I want. I don't need to worry about whether they're going to sell or whether they're going to be a complete disaster, because I'm entirely responsible for the final product. Um, so I can experiment. I can do weird, unusual things that you might not see in other places. And I
Okay.
think it worked out well for Space Team.
Now, here seems like a good time to take a quick commercial break. Let's hear a word from our sponsors.
The Tiberius Show would like to thank one of their dedicated sponsors, Custom Designs Orlando. These guys are on Mills Avenue and do all sorts of stuff, ranging from photo ID badges, engraved signs, custom braille ADA signs, vinyl lettering to trophies and awards. The cool part about Custom Designs is they can ship products all over the United States. You can reach them at 407-898-0373 and tell them that
Tiberius!
sent you.
And we are back here talking with Henry Smith, and Henry is an indie game developer. So, Henry, what's the most challenging part of being an indie game developer?
Well, I'd say the most challenging part is very similar to the best part of being an indie game developer, which is that you're responsible for everything and you have to do it all yourself. So that means even the challenging things or things that I'm not very good at, sometimes I can't afford to hire someone else to help me with it. So I have to find a way to do it myself, whether that's like learning totally new system I'm bad at, or finding like a tool that I can maybe buy that someone else has made. But yeah, you don't have a big team to support you, and so you're entirely responsible for everything, like whether you make money, whether your game crashes. So
Not even a space team?
nice. Yeah, I do have a lot of support from my fans, actually, and in fact, the community is amazing, and they helped the game get translated into 23 languages, and so that's something that I was able
Whoa.
to get just from the help of volunteers from the community. So you're right,
Okay.
I do have a team.
So I read that you think all games should be free. Can you tell me more about that?
Oh, well, this is a bit of a controversial topic, but I mean, it sort of stems from the fact that like we don't really pay artists very well in our society, and I think that paying money for especially digital products, which can be freely copied, like not the same as physical products. I think that if artists and people in general, if there was some kind of universal basic income where we would all get enough to survive, and we didn't have to worry about like where the next paycheck is coming from, then there would be such a huge explosion of creativity and art, and we'd all be able to do really interesting things. And so I believe that everyone should get paid a universal income, and then we could make games for free and distribute them and all games could be free like that. Now, obviously, that's a very long path to get from our current society and economy to that kind of world, but it's sort of an aspirational goal where I would love to just make my games for free, not charge money for them, and find some other way of getting paid, whether that be through support from my fans, like through Patreon, where they're not paying for specific games, but they're paying for, like, me as a creator to keep making things that are free for everyone. That's the kind of idea.
Okay. Well, I've played some free games that have pay options for, like, chess or extra content like yours, playing SpaceTeam. But do you think that model will work?
Well, I mean, SpaceTeam does use this in-app purchase model where the base game is free, but if you pay me $5 and it'll unlock, or $3, you can unlock a bunch of optional extras. And that's just because that seemed like the best option for my game using the existing systems. But I'm also experimenting with other avenues of making money, like Patreon, which is more like a membership club that you can join. The SpaceTeam Admirals Club, where you can pay a monthly fee, and then you get updates from me, and you get new games that are free for everyone. So you're helping to support these games, but it's not quite the same as you're not getting something like super exclusive because the game is free for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's more about supporting creators.
So, I mean, what about Roblox? I mean, I get Robux from holidays or from friends, and I can support programmers that make the games I play a lot on. Do you think this might be a workaround for getting better games?
I'm not super familiar with Roblox, actually. I know about it, but I haven't played it myself. So I'm not exactly sure what the business model is like from them. But I've heard some interesting and concerning stories about the monetization model in Roblox. So I would be a bit concerned about other people following that model. I think there's a lot of exploitation that happens. I remember reading something about that. So I would be wary of recommending that kind of model.
Okay.
Without doing more research.
I love your game, SpaceTeam, but we've made a few videos with my friends playing the game. Do you enjoy seeing what other people create with your game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's super fun to watch people play SpaceTeam, either in person, like at a show or a festival, or people making videos about it. I mean, it's a little bit tricky to make a video because really you need cameras on every screen and then another camera to show what people are doing, because you need to be able to see gestures and people like shouting at each other. But it's been done. I know I remember a fun video where everyone was wearing GoPro headset cameras to record their screen, and then there was some other guy with a camera filming the whole group. That was really fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I recently saw the new card game SpaceTeam on the internet. Did you help in the development of the card game?
I helped a little bit, but most of the development and production was done by another team. And so I gave them my blessing, and I licensed the rights to build the game, and I think I play tested it at some early versions, but then they did all the rest of the work. So it was great. I was able to focus on the digital side, and then I'd get some royalty money every 6 months or something.
Huh. So what type of training does a kid need to be able to work as an indie developer?
Wow, it really depends on what kind of role you want to play in making the game. Like, you can be a programmer, or you can be an artist, or you can be a producer or a tester, and they all involve very different skills. I'm a programmer, so I learned how to program. I did a computer science degree, but you don't really need a degree. You could just, a lot of people are self-taught, and you can learn a lot, especially these days. You can learn a lot with just YouTube videos, or there are even university courses offered for free online now.
Yeah, sure.
So,
well,
I think a
know
good way
there's
to
all
start.
sorts of parts in games, from like testing, graphics, and audio to network connectivity and gameplay mechanics. But what's your favorite part of development?
That's a good question. I think my favorite part is building the look and feel of the game, how it feels to play, and how you interact with it, which is generally considered user experience or UI. which is why that's my specialty. I'm a UI programmer because you get to touch a lot of different aspects, but it's the thing that's most sort of visible and present to the player, and that they interact with and touch, every time they play. And I think that it's undervalued. I think not a lot of more games should pay more attention to their UI. And I've played a lot of games that have been ruined by bad UI design. So I think that's my favorite part.
What's the craziest thing that's happened while you were doing your passion?
Craziest thing? That's a good question. I mean, just all the connections that I've made from SpaceTeam. Like because it's spread so fast and so far, and it's had so many downloads and so many people have interacted with it. Like I got connected with the people who made Star Trek. They reached out to me. I got connected with there's a lot of just cool people I've met and connections I've made because people know about SpaceTeam and they've reached out to find me. And I never intended for this to happen. Like, it was supposed to be just a small practice project so I could learn how to make phone games, and it just opened up so many doors and opportunities for me.
Well, what's the hardest part about working as an indie developer?
I think the hardest part is doing everything by yourself, and not having a team to support you, as I mentioned before, which is also a good thing and a freeing thing, liberating thing. But yeah, it's sometimes I miss just being able to delegate tasks to other people.
Ah, okay. Who can you say was the person that helped drive your passion the most?
That's a really good question. I don't know if there was any one person specifically, but I've been inspired by a lot of different folks over the years. My dad helped me get started from a very young age. We had access to computers like earlier than a lot of people, and he helped me with my first programming tasks. So he was pretty inspirational. And then, I mean, it's so easy to find inspiration these days from other indies who are doing amazing things with really small teams. Yeah, most of my inspiration these days comes from indie games rather than big blockbuster games, which are often just very formulaic, or you've seen them before, or they're just licensed properties. And so all the exciting experimental stuff is happening in the indie world.
Ah, okay. Now, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice, I think it was to start small. Don't bite off more than you can chew. For your first game, especially, make something really, really small, smaller than you think, because there are so many like unknowns and challenges that will come up that it's very easy to get too ambitious and then work on something and never finish it, and then get sad because you run out of money or something. So yeah, start very, very small. Just finish something from start to end that's the smallest chunk you can imagine, and then you'll understand the whole process. This is pretty common advice, I think, from a lot of people. I can't remember where I heard it first, but yeah, I think so many people have experienced this firsthand, where they eyes are bigger than their stomach, as it were, and they try something that's way too big, and then they fail, and you can learn so much just by taking a project from start to finish and getting to the end.
What was the very first job you've ever had?
Well, let's see. I think the first paying job I had was a babysitting job for like some friends of the family, but I already was teaching myself how to make games at that point and program, and so I think I was specifically asked to babysit these two young kids who wanted to learn programming, and so I was also helping them with like make games, very simple games. And I wasn't a professional at that point. I was still just in high school, I think. So I think that was the first time I got paid to do something.
Okay. Well, was there anything you learned from that job that helped you to be a better indie developer?
Hmm, good question. I mean, I guess I opened my eyes a little bit as to what as to how kids think, and because the kinds of games they wanted to make and the kinds of things they wanted to do were very different than what I was doing, and I mean I was helping them, but yeah, it was I think it was one of the first experiences I had where I I realized that people used computers very differently than I did, and they had very different ideas about what games were and how to have fun and how to play. So it probably helped.
Okay. Well, what message do you want to tell children all over the world about doing the work that you do?
Children all over the world. I guess just well, when you're playing games, just don't forget that everyone's trying to have fun. Like to be nice to each other, have some compassion. Um, yeah, I think there's a lot of toxicity, and especially in online games these days, and people forget that there's like people on the other end are real people
Yeah.
with feelings, and everyone's just trying to have fun, and probably going through a difficult day, and they're trying to just take a break from life by playing video games.
Yeah.
So maybe just be nice to each other, guys.
Well, on that note, let's take a quick break to pay some bills. And we are back here with Henry Smith, an indie game developer that just got hired by a big company? Ooh, okay. So I heard you got hired by a super big company that I play all sorts of their games. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. So yeah, for the last 10 years I was indie, but then my money started to run out because SpaceTeam doesn't make a lot of money anymore. So I decided to get a job again in the industry. I had previously had industry jobs, so I had some connections and experience.
Okay.
So I got hired by Epic Games, which yeah is apparently very famous. But
Oh,
so yeah,
yeah.
I'm working Lego Fortnite right now, which
Huh.
just came out in December, I guess.
Yeah.
And yes, a lot of fun.
Well, will you still be able to work on indie projects while you're working for Epic?
That's a good question. And yeah, I had to actually submit several request forms for each of my projects to make sure that I was allowed to work on them. And yeah, many of them,
Huh.
because I started these projects before coming to Epic, they said it's okay, I can keep maintaining them. And some of them there were restrictions on, like they can't be like I have to work on them for free. Um, but so generally I can keep working on stuff, but yeah, there are restrictions about on certain things about
Okay.
competition and stuff.
Well, what lessons do you think future programmers should learn about how to get a leg up on what will be needed?
What lessons? It's well, I think one thing programmers should be very aware of is that with all the AI stuff that seems to be hot right now, buzzword worthy, they should be very aware of all the biases that are sort of implicit in these AI models, and be very careful about how they're using them, because otherwise we're just going to perpetuate the same kind of biases that society has, and we're going to make all the same mistakes, and things are going to be just as bad and unfair and
Mm-hmm.
exploitative. So we've got to be very careful about how we use these new technologies that are arising.
Okay, so what was that one thing that happened in your career that you did not expect?
I think it was after making SpaceTeam. You know, it was a fun game. I thought it would get some interest, but it got so much interest from all sorts of different places and organizations and companies, and I got approached by big, small companies, universities, big game companies, to commission me to build custom versions of SpaceTeam. You know, with their own like branding, like their own like in jokes and words and phrases, and that was, I mean, I could probably made a whole business doing that, selling that SpaceTeam like reskins to different companies, but it wouldn't be very interesting for me.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that. But I was surprised. Like it did happen like 5 or 6 times, and I made a bit of money doing that, making custom branded versions of SpaceTeam. It was very surprising because I had no idea that did not even occur to me as a potential source of revenue from my games.
Okay. Now that you're with Epic, are you gonna switch from giving away free Steam games on your blog to Epic ones?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I hadn't considered that. I think I'll keep giving away Steam games because I have a big backlog of games that I've got in bundles that I have extra keys for. Yeah, and if I get some free Epic games, maybe I can give those away as well. I don't know exactly what the rules about that are. I might be restricted in certain ways from giving away things, but if I can, yeah, sure, I will. Absolutely, I think that's a good, nice way to give back to my readers.
Okay, so do you think AI is changing how programming is done?
Yeah, I think it is for better or worse. I mean, I using it a tiny bit, but mostly as like autocomplete, just a really smart autocomplete, so that if I have to write like some very common
Yeah.
like boilerplate function, like it
Yeah.
will quickly type it out for me, so I don't have to type the same thing a million times.
Copy paste.
But I'm very wary and skeptical about how much it's going to be used in the future without people thinking about it, without like properly thinking through the ethical
Yeah.
considerations. And yeah, it's definitely going to be misused and abused, and because it's still so like so much of a black box, you don't know what's happening. Even the experts don't really understand what's going on and why it's producing the output it's producing. So I think it's fraught with peril. There's a lot of danger there, and I think people need to be very careful, and we need to have a lot of eyes on the and how it impacts and society as a whole.
Okay. What was the biggest mistake that you've ever made? How did it change you as a person?
Ooh, biggest mistake I've made. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes. Some, just from ignorance. Some from bad decision making. And I think we all learn from our mistakes. We all have to learn and grow and not have too many regrets about the past. I think I'm
Yeah.
over that. I mean, there are a few specific things that happened that I would love to go back and change just because they caused me like a whole year of like uh, pain or annoyance. But
Okay. So, do you
but
play video games? And if you do, which I'm sure you do, what's your favorite one?
ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I do play video games, not as much as I would like to, but one of my favorite games recently is Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds, it's like tiny
Okay.
clockwork solar system that you can explore, full of puzzles. I
Ah.
love that game. And it's got some time loop mechanics. I love a good time loop.
Well, is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you?
Well, you can learn more about me by following my Patreon campaign. I write like occasional blog posts there. They're less now that I'm working for Epic, but yeah, I have a Patreon campaign which comes with a blog. You can also find me on Blue Sky and Mastodon. I'm Engineer in many of those places. I no longer have a Twitter account because Twitter is being destroyed by an evil billionaire. So I would advise you to leave as soon as possible if you're still on Twitter. Um, yeah, you can follow my work if you're interested. I'm still looking forward to going back to my indie games. Labyrinth is my next game after SpaceTeam that was at the halfway done. I was demoing it at festivals, and I still think
Huh.
it's going to be really exciting. And I hope to get back to it eventually. But
Okay.
yeah, that's an escape room game, cooperative
Ah.
escape room game with
Well, do you have a
procedurally
Facebook or
generated
website from
levels.
us as want to follow you and try out the game?
You can't play that game yet, but it is at labyrinth.com. So labyrinth with a B in front of it. There's a teaser website there, and then if you go on Patreon and look for Engineer, you can find my site there.
Okay. So, what's that one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
Let's see. I mean, I don't know. Maybe do I have any Space Team swag I can send you? Because the answer
Well,
is yes. I've got some swag that I've leftover
really?
from my Kickstarter, so I can send some to you.
Okay, that would be nice. Well, thank you, Henry, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
Sure.
Okay.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
And now it is time for Math Corners. Thank you, Henry, for helping me with Math Corners. And this week, we are going to do some more multi-step word problems. My dad's always good at finding new problems for me to solve. And today, we're going to talk about envelopes. Ooh. Okay, so Sarah has 17 blue envelopes. She has 2 fewer yellow envelopes than blue envelopes. She has 6 times as many green envelopes as yellow envelopes. So how many envelopes does Sarah have in all? Well, do you have an idea what it is?
I think I was following the numbers there. You're 2 fewer than 17, 15, and then it was going pretty fast.
I'll help you out. Well, first, this is a world problem because, well, people have some stuff have a lot of envelopes for mailing stuff. But what about email? I'll just follow it anyway. Oh, to solve this, first you can see everything is based on the blue envelopes. So you start finding out the other ones. Yellow is 2 less than 17, so 15 yellow. That was pretty easy. And I get 6 times yellow, or 15 times 6, which is 90 green ones. That was a little bit harder. I have to add them together. So 90 green plus 15 yellow is 105, and you add the 17, get 122 total envelopes. So Henry, did you ever have to have lots of envelopes when you were a kid, or did you just stick to email?
Wow. We didn't really have email when I was a kid. Showing my age here. I think it was starting to become popular, but I actually did send out a bunch of envelopes, because my very first indie game was when I was in high school. I built my own game and I made the demo available for people to play, and if they liked it,
Huh.
they could send me a physical order form in the mail and $10 or something, and then I would send them floppy disks with the full game on it in the mail. I printed my own floppy disks. This is, do you even know what floppy disk is? Maybe not.
Maybe.
and I would,
It's somewhat.
so yeah, I had to send out envelopes to people all over the world with my game on it, and the order forms they would send in to me often had that they play the game with their kids, and they'd send me really cool drawings that their kids did of the characters in my game. That was a very formative experience for me. It's like when I knew that I could really do this for a living.
Okay, well, my teacher said that I would use math every day. How do you use math with your work?
Well, as a programmer, especially a game programmer, we use math a lot as well.
I'm sure.
Yeah, anytime you have things moving around on the screen or in a 3D space or a 2D space, you need math and physics even to figure out how fast things move and if they collide
Physics.
with each other, and how big they are, and in relation to everything else in the world. Yeah, math gets used a lot in video games, especially in graphics and networking and physics and
Okay.
simulation. So yeah, all the time.
Well, thank you so much, Henry, for your help with Math Corners.
You're welcome.
Over 40 years, Lighthouse Central Florida has provided education, independent life skills, and job training to thousands of Central Floridians who live with blindness or any degree of vision loss. Whether it's picking out clothes in the morning or just moving around your community and serving Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties, contact Lighthouse Central Florida at 407-898-2483 or visit them online at lighthousecfl.org.
And now it's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we talk about qualities of living for the Heart of a Lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. This, for me, I think leadership is the act of loving what is good. having self-control, and being disciplined. The qualities of leadership are providing guidance and direction, organization, and being a positive influence on others. So, at my school, I noticed Maya worked on a presentation about the environment. She worked with other classmates, and she listened to everyone else's ideas and opinions. She came up with ways to organize the information and encourage others to tackle tasks that best fit their skills. This is true leadership. She provides guidance and direction as well as organization without having to tell people what to do and just being supportive. Sometimes the best way to be a leader is to listen to others and allow them to feel heard and respected. So, Henry, did you hear you use leadership at all this week?
Well, I can't speak to any specific examples because a lot of the stuff I'm working on is not released yet. But a lot of people on my team where I work now are playing with systems they don't really understand, and they have to do a lot of learning, and sometimes they have to make decisions to the best of their ability, working with limited knowledge. And so I think that they have to take initiative and take responsibility for things. I think that shows leadership as well. Like sometimes you just have to make a call, even if maybe you don't have all the information. And so, I've seen a lot of that lately.
Okay.
On my team.
All of the Heart of Lion virtues, which is the one that you see the most?
Which is one that I see the most? So leadership, integrity,
obedience, and
ability.
ability.
I think probably integrity. That's the one that's the most important to me.
Huh. Okay. But we should always try to be lion strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Sure. Yeah.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Henry Smith for being on my show. It has been so much fun talking to you today. I think we learned a lot about your career as a game developer and excited to see what you will do in the future.
Thank you.
Do you mind giving your social media and website again?
Sure. You can find me, follow my indie career, I guess, on patreon.com, which is this crowdfunding website. I'm Hengineer on there. And then you can also find me on Blue Sky and Mastodon. I think I'm also Hengineer in both those places.
Okay. Well, also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Tiberius Show, and I would like to thank WWPR 1490 AM, KNT98, Soul Radio 24/7, Easyway TV, and all the other stations that air my show. Please be sure to visit The Tiberius Show on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Henry, are you subscribed yet?
Not yet, but I can certainly do that.
Okay. Oh, and be sure to leave me a comment if you want to work in the gaming programming field. Also, be sure to listen to us next week on The Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy. That's a wrap. Ooh.